Hi, I'm Owen, and welcome back to the second episode of Breaking Bad, Locks. And today we're going to be doing a little brief lesson on the history of locks. So, from the dawn of time, humans have needed to keep their things safe from other humans, but the technology just wasn't there to produce locks because at the beginning of time, people didn't have refined machining skills, weren't able to make things out of metal or even really carve such intricate things out of wood that would function as a lock using a key as we know it. So in the beginning, locks were really just like simple mechanisms, like a little bit of rope that you would put over a doorway to detect if someone opened it. So instead of keeping it safe, it let you know if it was broken into. Now, as time goes on and technology begins to develop a little bit, about 6,000 years ago, in ancient Egypt, locksmiths were actually able to construct some of the very first rudimentary pin and tumbler locks, which is still the same fundamental technology we see today, only they were created out of wood and used a much simpler key. It didn't have the same modern keyway, but it was the same concept. It was you push the pins into place and then the keyway can turn. And that was it. And it worked, and it allowed people to have doorways that were protected by a specific key. And yes, it's made out of wood, it wasn't very secure. It would allow someone to still break in through a brute force attack much easier, but it means that you would need to use that brute force attack rather than just opening the door. Then as we get to the times of the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans, technology has begun to evolve, and ancient Greeks are still making locks out of wood, and they're not very solid, but they're able to improve upon the original designs and make slightly more secure ones, a little improved keyway, and by the time you get to the ancient Romans, they were able to build locks out of iron, and they developed more secure keyways. So these iron locks allowed you to have a specific type of iron key shape that you couldn't insert into every lock like you can see today, because only certain keys fit in certain locks to begin with, not even including if they're the correct key for that lock. And also, since they were metal now, a brute force attack where you just kicked down the door was more difficult, since when you had a wood one and a wood door, the door was the weakest link. But now that you have an iron lock, everything is much more secure to both like a high skill attack with lock picking and a brute force attack. And then by the fall of the Roman Empire, locks had grown to this point where they were pretty secure, but nothing near what we see today. And the Dark Ages of Europe, there was little to no advancement on locks. Locksmiths didn't have the resources to create innovations or really even create locks. It just wasn't the thing of the time. Once we get around to the 18th century, that's when locks begin to get more advanced, and we're able to see a bunch of different locksmiths during the Industrial Revolution and onwards developing more and more advanced locks. And that's when you hear names like Chubb and Yale and Siegel, and these names are all on locks that you see today. And they're, for the most part, the same technologies we see today. There are more advanced keyways, there are more advanced pins, there are more advanced security mechanisms on the inside that are supposed to make it more difficult to pick. And these advancements throughout the Industrial Revolution really define what we see as a modern lock today. So even though the modern locks today, we have many different types rather than just the pin and tumbler, we have disc detainers, and we have lever locks, but all these locks can have their roots in a very small evolution of locks. Like, realistically, it's not like locks have changed that much since ancient Egypt. It's still mostly the same concept. It's just now we're using metal, now we're using more advanced machinery, more precision machinery to make harder to pick locks. But the legacy is still very clearly there, and it only speaks volumes to the possibilities for the future, because locks are by no means perfect yet, and there's so much room to grow following this clear lineage. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning into this lesson. I'll see you guys next time.